Hi, everybody. Matt here from Matt Likes Comics, and welcome to the bi-weekly Superman show on the Sunday. We are going to specialize tonight in the part of Superboy, where Clark Kent was, of course, where Clark Kent had adventures as a boy, as they used to say, or whatever. I want to welcome everybody here tonight. I want to say hello to my guests, Stephen.
Hello there.
And Cliff. Cliff on Comics has joined us tonight.
Thank you for
What
having
would
me.
be, we were just talking before the show started that this Sunday in particular seemed to have had a lot of live streams more than normal. And I bring it up because I want to say thank you to everybody who's joined us tonight, because with everything out there that you took the time to come and join me makes me say thank you very much and appreciate it very much. And those that watch this on the replay, you're not forgotten either. Thank you very much for taking the time to watch us. So basically tonight we're going to talk about Superboy. And Superboy started in controversy right from the bat. Debuting in January 1945's More Fun Comics as a 101 as a feature, it was drawn in 1944 without any input from Jerry Siegel, who was in the Army at the time, thus leading to Siegel and Schuster suing National Periodical Publications in 1946 over the rights to Superboy, where they claimed they should have the rights because it was based off of derivative work that they had created. And DC, although using the same argument, went with the fact that we own the copyright, therefore we can do whatever we want with it. Jerry and Joe ended up ultimately losing the fight, but settled for, they were granted, DC agreed to pay them each $94,000 in 1946 dollars, which amounts to about $500,000 today, but were fired immediately. And it was 20 years before Siegel even picked up work at DC Comics again with the Legion, basically. So sad to say that it came down to this sort of fight, because if I remember correctly, the feature started with Superboy as an 8-year-old boy, and then he got his own book on top of. He moved to Adventure Comics from More Fun Comics, and then got his own book in '49, which had that interesting cover, if you recall, of Superman, where the kids are saying, "What was it like when you were a boy?" And they're like, "Well, just take a look right here, in the corner." So, Stephen,
Yes, sir.
how big a fan of Superboy stories were you growing up?
My affection for Superboy was predicated by the Legion of Superheroes and Adventure Comics.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that Adventure Comics was a more interesting anthology book for all of the features in it than Action Comics was, because Action had like Kongorilla and some of those other guys, and it wasn't quite as interesting. Adventure would have Aquaman and Green Arrow and things like that, which I found far more interesting.
Yep.
And also, I found that the with Adventure also, Jack Kirby was doing a lot of the Green Arrow work on at that time when he was working for DC before he went over to Marvel.
Very nice. Cliff, what about you? What was your first experience with Superboy?
So, my first experience with Superboy is him attacking Superman and the Legion in the John Byrne run of Superman.
Very cool.
But I think I was already aware of, it's cool. Like, I had read something, like, I got a Superman from the 70s from the library.
Mm-hmm.
And it had Superboy stories in there, like one or two. And then, of course, there's that episode of, there's 2 episodes of Super Friends with Superboy.
That's correct. I remember them both.
So I had watched those, so I was familiar with the concept of Superboy, only to quickly, in my comic book collecting childhood, encounter, they're killing him.
Yes.
And so everything I read after was like a post-mortem experience for the Boy of Steel.
Yes, and that goes back, the reason I mentioned The reason that I had mentioned to begin with the court case is because it comes back to that, and I'll explain after we say hello to our wonderful friends who've shown up in the chat tonight. First up is Robbie Joseph. Hi, Robbie. And we've got Thomas O'Donnell.
Mr. O'Donnell?
We have Rob Saint.
Mr. Saint?
I'm doing much better, Rob. Thank you for commenting.
You look better, my friend.
Yeah, well, it's every day is better, right? I'm feeling a slightly more energetic every day, and this is a holiday weekend for us here in Canada.
Why?
Oh.
It's midsummer.
What does that mean?
It means that every province except Quebec and Newfoundland takes the first Monday in August and gives everybody a summer holiday. They call it the civic holiday. Because I work in Ontario, I get the holiday off.
You should have any holiday. You should have every holiday you want to have.
I know. Well, it's just a summer thing, but like they do it. Hi,
Hello,
Kim.
Andreas.
Let's see. We got this guy here. Never seen him before. Diabetic Superman's in the chat. Hi, welcome to the show.
Howdy.
Mike Dennis is here. Good to see you. Susie.
Hi, Sue.
Susie Q.
And John Harrison is here.
Hello, John.
Stephen Spock.
Stephen Spock, did the books arrive? Could you just let me know if the books got there? I would appreciate it if you would just put a little note down in if they I hope that they got there in one piece, if that's all right, if you let me know. Thank you.
And Kay Munin has a nice comment. Watching the show is more familiar with the entire Superman family. Thank you very much. Now,
job
Cliff,
one here. That's job one.
yes. Cliff, as I was saying there, the reason they killed off Superboy, I mean, not just the Superboy Prime one, but the Connor Kent version, was
I'm not even talking about that version.
No, but this has to do with the
lawsuit.
One of the lawsuit again, because the estates of Joe Shuster, and Jerry Siegel was still alive at the time, decided to sue DC again to try and get back some of the rights to Superman. And as a result, they actually managed to get an injunction that DC could use Supergirl but could not use Superboy. So they killed Connor Kent off during Infinite Crisis there and did not use a character named Superboy until the lawsuit settled years later. And with the current settlement that they have, it is why in every Superman book you see printed with special permission by the Jerry Siegel family. That was part of the settlement in the end, and this has been the last time. Basically, they've been told they can't litigate this again because copyright's going up anyway. So, but because of that, not only did they bring back Connor Kent, they now have the potential for new Superboy stories. And speaking of which, current issues of Superman Unlimited have him having an adventure when he was Superboy. So therefore, we've gone back full circle with Superboy. And that was one of the reasons I was reading that Superman comic this week. I just bought it. And it was one of the reasons I decided to go with this topic. So without further ado.
Too much litigation.
Yeah, well.
Too much litigation. And some of the letters that Siegel wrote, all of these cursing their generations and all the other things, and they sell those letters. They surface every so often. My local comic shop here in Portland, who is actually in Vancouver, actually at one of the auctions bought one of his letters. It's the most ridiculous thing I ever read. There's so much acrimony in it. It's beyond belief. It really is. It's terrible.
Jerry Siegel was a very bitter man. He thought, and deservedly so, I say, he thought Superman would make him rich. He made a stupid kid's mistake. He should have spoken with a lawyer before he signed the check. They were so buzzed to get Superman published that they didn't stop and think about all the parts about the rights. You know, they could, because at the very least, if they talked to a lawyer, they might have gotten some recognition and a little more money for their royalties, like Bob Kane did.
They were lucky, but everybody turned it down, and Major Bowles, or whatever his name was, the impresario with Action Comics, took a chance on them because they had shopped that around. In More Fun, they had the origination of the what Superman, the Doctor Occult. That's what he looked like. He was Superman by another name, and they had tried to sell the Superman thing, and no one was interested in it.
Yeah, until
and this guy took. So if they, I can tell you this. Your premise, they were lucky to even be considered. And if they had gone in there to try to get fancy, there's a very good chance that Superman would not have been published. If they got too fancy, they say, "Forget you." It was we'll take a chance on this, is what they did.
Yes,
so it was a very shaky thing for these guys. They were lucky.
I get that, but only because I know the story of Bob Kane, where like he didn't want to make the same mistake they did. So his dad said, "Hey, go see a lawyer. You're under 21 anyway," because he was 19 when he made Batman. And sure enough, like his dad had to sign his contract on his behalf. So at the law under the time, you couldn't sign a contract under 21.
Yeah.
And so he had that advantage of saying, well, look, I want my name on there and I'd like a little more. And in return, I stay with you. I don't do other work anywhere else, and sort of thing. And that.
So, but he traded exclusivity. Did you know what kind of remuneration additional he got?
He got 10%. A higher a page rate double of what the two of them got combined, and
he got. I got the list of the 1947 renegotiated contract. DC agreed to the new contract. He gained partial legal ownership, veto power over future sales, a guaranteed high volume of paid pages annually, and ongoing ancillary rights. Crucially, it cemented his sole creator credit in perpetuity.
Yeah.
That's a good contract, but by 47, they knew they had a winner and they had to bend.
Yeah, but here's another thing. In 47, he got that contract, partly also because Siegel and Schuster went to Bob Kane and said, hey, listen, we're going to do this. Do you want to come with us? We can help you get better terms. Bob Kane went and ratted them out. And this was his reward. That was part of it, this 47 one. And Diabetic Superman, you may be right. It could be Action. I know it's one of the newest series because I had bought the book last week. So
never meet your heroes. Never know about your heroes. Yeah. Let the thing ride and enjoy their output.
A lot of people say Bob Kane was one of the swarmiest people in comic books history. And again, you have to take it with a grain of salt. We weren't alive, and we certainly weren't in a position to meet Bob Kane if we were. So, I mean, like, take it with a grain of salt. There was a lot of bitter hands on that. Like Bill Finger, justifiably so. Yeah. But there were a lot of people with bitterness towards him. So
Jerry Robinson would take credit for Jack Burnley covers and said, no, that's my cover. And other guys like Fred Ray, who they all worked together, and Fred Ray was saying, no, you didn't. I remember when it came out. You know, I mean, what are you talking about? So the memories of these older men with all the accolades and stuff, I would say it's passing. Is that so? Steranko smacked Bob Kane in the face.
I've heard about that too.
Anyway,
Thomas would have gotten from the source. He used to work with Steranko.
Fair enough.
So, hi, Comic Mike. Good to see you. Robbie Josephs has a question. He thinks his Superboy is one of the most lovable characters. What do we think? I like Superboy.
Yeah,
and he's okay.
He does have some. He does have some lovable moments, and some questionable moments.
Yeah. What I always found interesting about Superboy was what they called the floating timeline, because Superman kept going on as an adult in the current era. They had to make the Superboy stories 20 years behind to make sure that they stayed with continuity. So you had the interesting part of the Superboy stories that came out in the 60s that take place in the 30s and 40s. And then you've got the ones as you keep going, the 70s take place in the 50s, and the 80s take place in the 60s. So you have a position by the time we get to this series that they're talking about President Kennedy and all this stuff. And we, of course, know stories of Superman where President Kennedy was helping him out. So it's just one of those interesting things that went on over the years.
I found Superboy to be sort of a pale image of Superman, except when in conjunction with him flying and being in the Legion of Superheroes and being involved with the group. Superboy as a title for me I did not collect Superboy when I was a kid. It was aimed right at me. Superman as a boy, so Superman can have like a youthful word, but is even himself, so that they could have a young Superboy, a young Superman to capitalize on the lack of a sidekick kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. And I always thought it was I don't knock it. It's just, it was somewhat derivative. So since my money was finite, it would all go to JLA and Flash and Green Lantern and Atom rather than to Superboy.
Which perfectly, I understand that myself. What I liked about the Superboy stories was that in the first, in Adventure Comics up to and including issue 328, I believe, you were able to get a Superboy story, whether it was a new one or a reprint.
Well, a lot of reprints. I remember that too.
Well, and I think the reprints started around 314 for the last little bit, but they kept up. They kept up with Superboy until 329 when the Legion started just taking over the whole book, which again was the way which was fine because that was the series that was selling the book at the time, and Superboy being a part of it, I'm sure was a big part of that. I like that Superboy had superhero friends he could hang around with when he was with the Legion, because what I do like the fact that the Superboy stories, they're usually 8 pages long, nice, simple little, oh, this kid has got to deal with this little problem going on. There's a small crime wave in Smallville, or, this alien has landed and such, and
this kid is blackmailing my identity.
Yeah. Lana Lang's after trying to prove him again, all those fun stories. And the thing is, because he was a teenager, they could be a little more fun. It wasn't Archie teenagery, but you get what I'm saying. Yeah. So let's begin, Stephen. Okay.
A little Archie teenagery at times. I mean, my God, there's I don't know how many key books I have, and it involves petty Lana Lovelorn over Superboy, and as a key factor in the plot. Starboy's first appearance is a Lana Lang's jealous story, and I'm like, oh my God, again.
Yeah, I mean, that was funny, and I think that's only the 5th or 6th ever Legion story to begin with, too.
Why don't you let Cliff lead off?
All right.
5th Legion appearance. So you want to lead? Well, what am I leading off with? A book?
Start showing off some books.
All right. Well, because you can see I've been struggling over here. So I want you to know that up until a year ago, I had no idea. I had no idea about this key, and I recently acquired it for $200 in a restored condition, and I'm very proud of it. It's a Superboy story. It's Adventure Comics 283, and it's the first appearance of the Phantom Zone and General Zod.
Yes, I know that book. I don't have it, but I want it. It's a very good book.
Yes. Thank you, Purple Label, and people who are really stupid about Purple Labels. I love it. I cherish it. It is a fabulous acquisition. And it's also the first appearance of Phantom Zone villain Dr. Zadu, who uses some mind control to take advantage of the situation. But Superboy trapped in the Phantom Zone realizes that he's got telekinetics in the Phantom Zone, so he uses it to use a typewriter to tell Pa Kent how to get him out.
I know I've read the story in a reprint. It's fantastic, and I love the fact that General Zod's first appearance is in a Superboy story,
and so is his second appearance. In fact, it's his third appearance. That's a Superman story, and it's the story of Superman Red, Superman Blue, an imaginary story. That's when he first shows up over there. I think it's wild to me. Wild.
Yeah, it is pretty cool considering how big of a character he's been. He's been in 3 of the Superman movies, so 4 if you count his body.
It's true. I mean, what? Well, he's Superman the movie, Superman 2, Man of Steel, Flashpoint.
Yes,
And then
Flashpoint, 5 movies. That's right. If
Yeah,
you count his body for Superman v Batman.
yeah. So of course, a lot of my Superboy love is centered around the Legion. So we got this beautiful copy of Adventure Comics 356 that I picked up.
Nice.
And I you know what I love about it? Every time the Legion got turned into children, Dream Girl was involved or around. Did you notice that?
Yes, I
Yes.
did.
You know, I was like, Dream Girl, what you doing? This one, every gay Legion lover anywhere knows this cover.
Yes.
I mean, the gun that mastered men. I have no other words.
Yes, and the fact that the gun gets stuck on a person's hand unless it's somehow removed is hilarious.
Yeah, this is the Dark Circle, but also I think this is the first time we see the Dominators.
That is correct.
And they don't have the red circle on their forehead.
Not yet, no.
And they're not gray skinned yet.
But they got the teeth.
Yes, they definitely got the teeth. The Revolt of the Super Pets, which I believe is their second appearance together.
No, there's a couple appearances before then. They add Proddy 2, and they have that's before this story, I believe. When they add Proddy 2, they have their little contest that they do. They're to get him to prove he can be a super pet with no real superpowers.
I know which one you're talking about because he's transforming into Superboy.
That's right.
Yeah, so I still need to get that. This I picked up recently in Canada, and I don't know if you guys have seen. I was very excited to find out that when I was showing my books to Chris the Comic Vet, that this book happens to be
double cover.
Cool. Cover. Very nice.
Also, it's a very salacious cover. You know, like what would you do to keep your secret, Superboy? And then
I could saw you in half with my X-ray, with my heat vision, and throw your body into the ocean that no one would find. That's what I would do.
That's certainly better than my answer. My answer is I'll give you a Klondike bar.
Super. But anyhow, it turns out that this kid actually doesn't know when he arrives in Smallville, he doesn't know that Superboy's identity. He just knows Superboy lives in Smallville, and he drags Clark Kent in all of these harrowing incidents trying to trigger a Superboy appearance.
Very nice.
Who wrote that, Cliff? Who wrote that one? Who put him through that?
Easy Rider to Doom. Art by Brown Anderson. Story by Frank Robbins.
Frank Robbins. Interesting. Artist Frank Robbins is a writer.
Yes,
interesting.
He actually did a few of those stories around then.
That's interesting. Cliff, was that a departure? I mean, in the run through there, was that plot line out of character for the things that Superboy was having to contend with, or was he getting that kind of jazz in the books at that period?
I felt that this was a little bit out of the norm because, again, it was typically, oh, Lana, oh, Red Kryptonite turned me into a cyborg, whatever, you know, like.
Yeah,
so I like this. I like that this shook it up.
One of the best things I thought about the late Silver Age was when they made the Kents younger again.
Yes.
That was actually
a hot minute. They got to be young.
And Mike Dennis is right that there are some fantastic Neil Adams Superboy covers. I have one issue of Superboy that he did the cover that I had him sign. He did a lot of good work on those.
So I got so many weird ones, but we're going to stick to Superboy for a hot minute. All right, so talk about Superboy being just weird in general. Here's one, you know? Like, yeah. So, yeah, another Kryptonian imposter. and more BS for Superboy to confuse him. I mean, like, that was typical. There always seemed to be some imposter Superboy for some reason. This one I really like because it's an early appearance of Devin,
yeah.
right? And he's got the Kryptonite Kid with him, the Knave of Krypton.
Yes.
So
I have Dev M's first appearance, and it's so funny. Like it's amazing how for a planet that blew up and Superboy was supposed to be the only survivor, how much of Krypton has survived.
Just as much as the writers need.
Yeah. But that was part of the problem ultimately, wasn't it? You know? There's too many Kryptonians alive. We got to change that. And then, man, these were not in order. So this is interesting. So we get Timberwolf, who I love, right? And this is Superboy starring the Legion of Superheroes. Yeah. And as you know, the Indica does not change, right?
Right. Not until 238.
Right. It continues to be Superboy. But then 222 is when we get Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes. Still no change on the interior, but now it's and the Legion of Superheroes.
We also get that wonderful Tyrock outfit.
We get Tyrock. Tyrock, first of all, I don't care. I like the outfit. Secondly, I like his crazy-ass powers. The fact that there's just such an awful controversy behind this character, or the fact that Paul Levitz was afraid to go anywhere near this character for 20-something years, you know? Painful. Just painful. And then we've got more shenanigans with the Time Trapper. And I always loved that the Time Trapper was truly a terrifying being. He really just seemed to, like, they would trick him, sort of, but, like, he really just could just practically distort reality around them, you know?
Well, I like the fact that his temper always seemed to be his end game. Like, he would defeat himself with his temper, and then when Darkseid stripped him of his powers during the Great Darkness saga when he was in Takron Galtos, that really was powerful. Because
do we know who the Time Trapper actually is? I mean, he's hooded and everything. Who is the Time Trapper?
Well, that's an interesting question.
This Time Trapper would ultimately be Cosmic Boy.
Really?
Yes. Then there was a period where the Time Trapper was Superboy Prime, and in current stories, literally the last 3 months, it's Doomsday is the Time Trapper.
You know, I don't understand that at all.
Comics.
Well, yeah, hold on. I'm trying to find. Like, they keep changing the Time Trapper after, but as 0 Hour comes along to wrap up this era, we learn who is the last Legionnaire, and that's where we discover Cosmic Boy getting trapped in. Whose tower does he get trapped in?
Mordru's, I believe.
It's Mordru's tower, and Mordru's tower is very much like Dr. Fate's tower, isn't it?
Yes, it is, because Mordru is probably one of the 5 most powerful sorcerers, like Dr. Fate.
So we find out after all that time that it's him, and he, of course, he learned magic while he was trapped in there. But I want you to know this is a very good reveal, and it's not wildly shocking, because if you read Legionnaires 3, where it's just the Time Trapper versus Lightning Lad, Saturn Boy, Lightning Lad, Cosmic Boy, and Saturn Girl, right? They're very much left with the feeling and the illusion that it's one of them is the Time Trapper.
Yes, I agree.
And this was, I thought this was a lovely resolve to that before it goes off the rails again.
I'll tell you, you guys are amazing on this stuff, because I really don't know. I don't follow the canon past where, you know, the original set.
Yeah. There's Wacky Bright Brainiac 5.
Yep. Who, of course, is never quite so wacky once you actually open the book, right?
No, I know.
But I've always enjoyed this cover.
Yes.
And it's Mike Grell, of course.
I love Mike Grell. His stuff is amazing.
And
I
then
keep hoping.
You keep hoping that he's going to be
that he comes back to Ottawa again.
Listen, he canceled a couple of appearances, so I'm praying he's doing all right. And last but not least, and this is not my only copy of this, but I grabbed it recently, and it's only fitting since I mentioned Zero Hour, and it's part of Zero Hour, and it's Superboy number 8, with the Con-El Superboy.
Yes.
And of course, thanks to Zero Hour, we're exposed to traditional Superboy again, who's not sure what's happening. And everywhere he goes, everything starts shifting to his timeline, confusing this Superboy. And also he recently, he was in the Legion, before this, and then he was pulled through time to here, because of course time is coming apart because Parallax Hal Jordan started absorbing the energies of the Anti-Monitor to use them to remake the multiverse in his own image, however he wanted.
Boy, is this confusing.
0 Hour is very confusing, Stephen. Even I can't get 100% grasp on it.
No, I think it's 100%. Hal Jordan, right? Because, of course, he lost so much when he went crazy, right? He was like, I want to bring it all back. I deserve to bring it all. I've mastered all of this power, right? And he's like, and I thought about how could I bring it all back? So he goes to the entropy that's left from the destruction of the Anti-Monitor and starts absorbing all of those energies, right? So that he can start producing a multiverse. And in the process, all of this time wave stuff happens. So Barbara Gordon Batgirl shows up in the Batcave. Superboy, traditional Superboy, shows up in Smallville. The Legion have Legionnaires that they do and don't remember just popping up beside them left and right.
That is true.
Everyone is affected by it, and ultimately there's a showdown at the end of time with Parallax, and much like any other major temporal crisis, they do defeat him, but in the process, a reboot is created. And then that's when we get what we call the Archie Legion at that point, and Legion of Superheroes and Legionnaires are brought to us at issue 0 and take off from there. So that's a whole thing. But really, this was mostly about Superboy. I think you've seen my other Superboy important stuff. So I will end it there. There's other Superboy things I have everywhere, but these are things that make me think of Superboy.
Very cool.
Oh, also, this is an homage to Superboy punching on Superman in Action Comics in part 3 of The Death of Superboy.
Yes, that's right.
Boy.
Well, let's bring on Steven. Well, he's we can feel.
Speaking of which, I forgot. I'm so sorry.
That's fine.
Death of Superboy.
Yes, I love that story. That is such a good story.
I love it too. It always gets me emotional.
It's the ending of Crisis, Stephen, and what happened was in order to show how Superboy, who never really existed in the John Byrne Superman, how he inspired the Legion. It turns out that the Time Trapper was sending them to an alternate universe every time. It's to a different Superboy. So it was a different Superboy they knew, and that was the death of that character storyline. So
right. Time Trapper saved that world in a pocket universe from the Crisis. Because again, Crisis was happening at all times at once. And Time Trapper stepped in and said, I'll save you, your precious world, Smallville, and I'll put you away, but you're going to owe me. Right? And of course, by owing him, it was to betray the Legion.
Yeah.
How did he get his powers that he could be so powerful?
Magic.
And Cosmic Boy was born magic?
No, he was locked for a near eternity in Mordru's tower, and that's how he gained all those abilities.
When you have nothing else, you read the books. I
confess I'm a dinosaur. I really am.
Stephen, you haven't read a lot of the books, and that's a lot of the reason why.
The first one I'm going to show is Superboy number 5. This one, when the first Melissa Benoist series was about to start, they were talking about it, and I thought, well, I already had Action 252 that I bought from Dave Alexander, but I didn't. I knew that Superman. I had a Superman 123, and then just to be sure I covered myself, I Googled it, and then I found out that they seemed the first Supergirl was in Superboy 5. So I went on to eBay, and here's a 7.5 of this book, off white to white pages. Thanks so much for coming by, Andreas. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. But this has the first story where the super princess basically comes in, and it's one of these where there's intrigue, and they chose Smallville for this princess to come to get an education, to get away from the evil vizier or the count or whatever it was. And they find out, and then there's problems, and then Superboy helps, and then she goes back, and will end up being the queen, and everything is peachy. But she comes into Smallville, and to Smallville High, and the girls don't like her because she's beautiful, and she's smart, and she's stronger than them, she's smarter than them, and all this other stuff. So they hate her guts. I mean, plain and simple. But Clark gets along with her because he's the brainiac, and then Superboy comes in, and then then they start to try to kill her, and so then he thwarts this, and then it finally comes. So he thwarts them, and then they tumble to what's going on, and then Superboy solves the problem, and then she gets to go back, and she thanks him, and she's learned a little bit of humility, a la Taming of the Shrew, sort of a thing. It's a pretty good story, so I was very lucky to get this, but this is very early on with the Superboy canon, and it was an interesting outpost to go to see stories of Superman when he was a boy, for the kinds of adventures he would do, a lot of it having to do around Pa Kent's store and things like that. And it was more so the sort of things that were going on. It was not galactic changing of the temporal images of time or whatever it is. It was far more street level, as far as that, just everyday problems, and then the challenges, as far as just being a teenager and stuff like that, but not to the point of like a Betty and like an Archie comic.
Exactly.
But that he was always pretty darn smart, and they wrote him very, very cleverly, and the artwork was very acceptable. The art on this book was done by the cover was done by John Sikela and Stan Kay. John Sikela was the ghost artist for Schuster lot in the early Superman. He did a lot of it. Was it Paul Rodriguez? Not Paul Rodriguez, but there was another guy that they had. That there were several that were the ghost artists for Schuster, because he couldn't keep up.
They also got oh my God, what's his name? Oh my God, it's literally the guy always draws it like this. Jeez.
Wayne Boring.
Wayne Boring, thank you. Jesus, sorry, I can't believe I couldn't.
No, it's not Jesus, it's just me. But the thing with Wayne Boring was that he really could do the Schuster. Boring was a very, very good artist.
He was.
And his Superman in the 50s, when it shifted to the much more lovely and pretty Kurt Swan, I really kind of like the roundy-eyed, big glasses of Wayne Boring, and he always is flying standing straight up with one leg tucked under his fanny. But the art was by Kurt Swan, inside John Sikela, Ed Dubrotka, and John Fishett. And I don't see where it says who the writer is.
The writers are probably unknown at some points because sometimes, okay, Wayne Boring was with the Schuster shop, and then DC paid him to come over and work for them. And probably at that time, literally people like Writer of the Day would handle Superboy, Superman. That's why you get Super Baby stories sometimes, because there was one particular writer, and I can't remember his name, but he liked doing Super Baby stories.
I confess to you that in the Legion of Superheroes, when they would turn into babies, me are want this or me want this or all that stuff, I really I thought that was cheese. Even as a kid, I didn't really care too much for that.
I can't think of a child that ever spoke like that. Period.
Well, but it was talking down to us, and I didn't care for that. I wanted to be. Don't try to do that. I mean, because we're smarter than than you give us credit for. When they would pull that stuff. And here's the other thing too: you get a story like that going up against Marvel Comics, what they were putting out. They didn't have any of that turn them into the baby crap that was going on. So there was, the DC kind of went down that rabbit hole. Here is Adventure Comics. This is issue number 158. That was Adventure 158. I can't remember what year this is. 48 or 49, something like that. And this one is very interesting. It is what is known as a sample copy. And when the distributor would go around to these newsstands to try to get them to carry a given title, they would provide sample copies so they could see whether they would want to carry the product, or anywhere that they wanted to have the book then on sale. And this one is one that survived that whole situation.
Very cool.
Wow. And in a nice condition.
Yes, the book itself is. Matter of fact, let me do this. Let's see what's inside this thing. I always throw the tape away. I don't save the tape. I never do. I don't. Anybody that saves the tape, when you take the tape off of a bag, crumple the tape up. Tape is cheap. You try to go cheap with that, and that's where you get a tape pull, and then you feel like an idiot. Don't do that. It's not a savings. It's a waste of time. Okay, this book was. Now I'm going to have to put my cheaters on because you made me. Look at what you made me do. All right, this is from 1950. This is from November of 1950, National Comics Publications, etc. We've got The Impossible Task.
Nice. Doesn't look that impossible though.
It doesn't look that. Not for Superboy.
No,
not for Superboy.
And you'll notice that at the time, you see how the pages don't come all the way to the bottom of the cover?
Yes.
See the vagaries of printing. In 1950, the Korean War was on, and I don't know if that had something to do with it. I really don't know. But the way that these things came together, a lot of times you'll see the raggedy edge on the book itself. That is to say, down at the selvage, that where you see the holes where the grabbers would grab the newsprint, you could actually see in it sort of a diamond across the bottom.
Interesting.
Hi, Kelly.
It's so funny because sometimes I'll learn stuff of that always mildly in the back of my mind intrigue me about a comic, and then Steven, the truth will appear.
To set you free. Just some of the art inside.
Nice.
See the roundy face up there? See, that's very typical. You see?
Yeah.
That's very, very typical, and the S very. I mean, he's very white bread as far as what he does. Uniroyal tires. Here's an ad page. Here is Thrills and Chills with Strange Adventures.
Cool.
And here is Johnny Quick.
Even cooler. I don't think I've ever seen an actual Johnny Quick story. Other than like
You all know how fast on the draw were such famed Western heroes as Wild Bill, Hickok, Wyatt Earp, and Buffalo Bill. Now, meet a man whose draw is faster than lightning. It's none other than our own Johnny Quick, the king of speed. You'll see him perform Western wonders that are out of this world as he goes through the high-geared adventure of Sheriff Johnny Quick. Remember, in 1950, the Flash is nowhere. This is 1950. This is Atomic Age, Golden Age, and the Flash did not appear until 1956, and also after the Code came in 1954. And I got into a thing with some people. People get funny about the dates as far as when the Silver Age began. A lot of the ages, when does the Bronze Age start? All these other things. And a fat guy named Slim, exactly. Hey, Slim! Hey, Slats! Haul it over here. The thing was that Johnny Quick was the only Flash character that DC had at that time. So the super fast, he got assigned to Adventure Comics as opposed to Action. So now the way it works with him is here's Johnny Quick.
Yeah, very nice. I mean, the uniform was very interesting.
And the way he gets is right slick looking. Now for the formula. Let's see. XYZ 17 ABC. Huh? Great snakes. Gunfighting right in my front yard. It's very, very adolescent and very it's aimed at kids. It is not, you don't have to be able to be and he's digging underground super fast and all that other stuff. He basically lets the old sheriff become Johnny Quick so he can take on the bad guys so he doesn't get killed.
Nice.
Double bubble. And here is the list of all, I always love this. Here are all the list of all of the editorial advisory board, Dr. Loretta Bender, Josette Frank, she's the children's book person, Dr. Schmidlab Sones and Harcourt Pipard, etc. And then Date with Judy Detective Feature Films, Funny Folks, Funny Stuff, Gangbusters, Jimmy Wakely, Leading Comics, Leave It to Binky, Mr. District Attorney, Mutt and Jeff, all these different scribbly, real screen comics, Peter Porkchops, Tomahawk. Then over here you've got Action Adventure, Alan Ladd, All-American Western now, because All-American was now a Western, All-Star, Animal Antics, Batman, Bob Hope, Buzzy, Comic Cavalcade, Dale Evans Comics, and Danger Trail. So the product mix at DC, I always find these things they're very, very interesting time capsules as far as what the product mix was. Next up, we have we always would get history stories in these things too, quite often. Here is The Father of the Submarine, and that is where they have the turtle, where he basically has this thing that looks like a plumb bob, where he gets in there and then he has a screw on that, and that's how he would go. And then they would attach the torpedo from the back of the thing onto the ship. I don't know how successful it was. I don't know if it was ever successful. Next comes a real early, here we go, next comes up is Aquaman in 1950. First you have a shorty with Nestle's Crunch. Now, Nestle's Crunch used to come in half-size bars as well as full-size bars. See? And sometimes they would have Nestle bars that didn't have the crunch in them.
What would a candy bar, chocolate bar cost?
Nickel.
That size. A nickel?
Nickel. Yeah. 5 cents. The favorite of millions. Rich, creamy, crunchy goodness. Aquaman, The Portrait in Peril. Let's see what we got going on here.
I love his yellow gloves in the Golden Age.
Does this give you an idea of the art?
Well, I believe Paul Norris was drawing it then still.
Paul Norris, I think, very well could have. Matt, do you have the Grand Comic Database handy?
I can get it up. Hang on. Okay.
And it's Adventure Comics number 158.
Okay.
There's 270 years ago in 1680, while winter winds howled across Lake Michigan, they found out that an onion a day was a very helpful thing to do.
Okay. They're saying it's John Daly is the pencils and inks of the Aquaman story.
No,
Onion a Day is just a text article with all it says is question marks after script, pencils, inks, colors.
Huh.
Who did Green Arrow?
Paul Tablet did the writing and George Papp did the arts.
See, George Papp was the Green Arrow guy forever.
Yeah.
It was George Papp. So there's that. I think that might be the last story.
Robbie, the answer to your question here, I believe it was 1954 when he started wearing green gloves.
And then here is the last, and you'll notice again that the paper does not go all the way down to the bottom of the cover. You see?
Yeah.
It's just the way things were back then. Columbia Bikes, and this is the last one, the last page of this story. The aeroplane, arrow line, the aeroplane, all that stuff. What's on here? Let's see what we got here. Red Rider. Okay, so that gives you here. That's basically a story from 1950. That's a book from 1950. What you would get was Superboy in Adventure. You
have a question on the screen.
Do you have all those Supergirls on the back wall just for Matt? I do. I do. That is. I'll take that later. Okay. Next one up, we got. I just wanted to take a little time with that early one just to show you, because seeing inside the old books, the actual newsprint,
yes,
it smells so good, and they feel there's the paper is somewhat porous, but there's enough finish to it to hold the ink very nicely. Really nice print of the ink. Here is Adventure Comics number 182. Too bad that hayseed pal of yours, Clark Kent, had to leave. He must be scared of heights. He says it's a good thing I'm not, because he's holding the damn building up. Featuring Superboy as the Super Hick from Smallville.
Oh my God. The Super Hick.
It's a little different than the Time Trapper and changing the axis of the planets and changing all the realities and all that other. It's a much simpler, easier time. It's a much slower pace. It's a slower pace of life. And this is the kind of book that some kid at the beach would have, and you'd buy from the drugstore, go to the dime store and get some comics. The parents give you $1. You get 10 books. Then you come back and you read them with all your friends, and then you accumulate books at the beach, which is what happened here. The kids would accumulate all these books at the beach and these beach houses and stuff. A lot of times people would leave them there. Things like that. That's just the way things were. But I wanted just to grind my axe a little bit further. In 1954, September, 1 year, I was 1 year old. What a crummy! I'm pre-code. I'm September of 53, and September of 54 comes the code. So, what a crummy birthday present. So the code comes in, and all of the prescriptions and all of the rules and regulations and ideas that they wanted to implement following the Kefauver hearings and all the problems they had with the Senate hearings and the Kefauver hearings and all that other stuff that happened. They came up with the rules and regulations, self-regulation by the industry to protect themselves so they can stay in business. So they basically agreed to everything. They set it up and everybody went along that was going to go along. And so in September, they basically got the thing figured out. Then in December, late November, and then into December, the December produced books, November, December produced books that would then have the dates of February and March of 1955 were the first books that had the Comics Code Authority stamp on them. And in 54, in 55, but it was starting in December of 54, the stamps were not terribly huge, but they were relatively large. In 56, they got much bigger. They were big for a couple years, and so I argue that the Silver Age began because the Silver Age is defined by the Comics Code Authority. Some people think that it would be Showcase number 4, which is the first appearance of the Flash, the new Flash, Barry Allen, and they say that is the beginning of the Silver Age. But in fact, he wasn't the first superhero, and he wasn't even an original superhero. He was a superhero who was a redo, and they were bringing back all the Golden Age heroes as Silver Age heroes. And it started with the Flash, right? And you know the whole history of it, how it goes from there. Prior to that, the Martian Manhunter, he came out in Detective 225, and that's what ended. That's what started the first original superhero of the Silver Age was the Martian Manhunter, not the Flash.
I can see an argument for that one. In fact, I was thinking that mentioning that one myself.
So when
he should get it.
So my conjecture, my point is that the code coming in ended the Golden Age. What comes after the Golden Age? The Golden Age is followed by the Silver Age. And the Silver Age started when all of those rules and regulations chopped down on the comic industry, and they started producing books under those rules. That is when the Silver Age began. It started in September of 1954, and then books that came out in early 55 with the code stamp on them. Those were the ones that basically started the Silver Age. And then in the Silver Age, the reintroductions of superheroes where they stuck their toe in the water with the Martian Manhunter, they wisely brought the Flash in, and then the Flash absolutely blew the whole thing up, and the popularity of the Flash in Showcase, then that led to all the other stuff that happened. That's what started in 56. Now in 56 all the way up to 61, DC Comics ruled the roost because Marvel Comics was still stuck with Marvel Monsters and screwy stuff that they were putting out and the Good Girl stuff. Now that stuff's great, but for the regular kids that were reading these, Marvel nearly went out of business with that product mix. And they basically looked at they cast about, Stan Lee cast about to try to figure out what the hell he could do to save the ship. And he saw the Challengers of the Unknown, and he thought that was a great idea, and then he went ahead and then cobbled together the Fantastic Four and made them his own, and they saved the company with that. So, but from 56, actually 54, from 54, when it all started, up to 61, DC ruled the roost, and that's why when I grew up, it was DC all the way. And then I came to understand and enjoy Marvel, but they were diametrically different companies for how they would produce. Marvel had problems and soap opera problems where DC Comics had true heroism and heroes that did things and were competent and strong, and they were virile, and they didn't worry about everything. Unlike the henpecked people over in soap opera land, Marvel, where everybody's got nothing but problems, and actually the superhero stories you have are mere punctuation marks to their problems. Look at Spider-Man. I can't pass the test. The girls don't like me. Betty Brant won't give me a tumble. J. Jonah's giving me a problem. Aunt May's dying. I got to get her to the medication. No one understands what I'm doing. I can't get a picture for J. Jonah. I got to raise some money. What can I do about that? And then he meets Dr. Octopus, or he fights whoever he does, and all of his problems are still there. It was a superhero where he basically stops the superhero, but the underlying thread of the whole thing was nothing but a soap opera problem. And that's what defined Marvel. And these guys that all said, I identify with all those problems. I didn't identify with those. I thought, what a pain in the ass. I want my heroes to be strong and be able to defeat them, use their heads and be interesting. And also not to have it be so much drama and that nothing ever gets resolved. Nothing ever gets solved. And that open wound that Marvel was all the way through still is, it's nothing but an open wound that never heals. That's a problem. Now, I like Doctor Strange. I like a lot of the Marvel stuff, but that's the difference between the two companies. Now, if you say, I like that because I like the conflict and all that stuff, I got enough conflicts in my life and the way life is that if I want escapism, I want to go where good defeats evil and there's a good feeling about it. The guy showers regularly and has a relationship with his girlfriend. Okay, here ends the lesson. I'm sorry I lemon treed on you. I'm sorry.
Even your lemon treeness is one of my favorite things about you.
Here is the next issue I have. It is this is issue number 207, featuring Smallville's worst athlete. And you see how the little kid's kind of cartoony? Do you still have the computer open?
Yeah.
Matt?
And just a second. We have a new member. Thank you, Mike. Thank you very much. Okay.
Adventure 207.
Okay.
Smallville's worst athletes. So I'm imagining that this kid is sickly and picked on or something, and
well, look at the helmet. When I played, we had pads and we had helmets that had masks on them.
Yeah.
And then anyway.
Okay, so I've got it up.
And the year? 52?
The year is 1954.
54. Okay, fair enough. This is December of 54. Now, that means that it came out around September.
It says here the on sale date is October 26, 54.
Okay, October 20. So here we are in transition. Here we are in transition right now. So December, because you see what they had to do is they had to hire the people to basically enforce the rules, and they had to train these people how to actually enforce the code and what had to be done for them to sign off on it. That whole process had to be figured out. And I thought to myself, how could there be some building that has a bunch of people in it that all this stuff has to be sent to them? And I don't think that's what happened. What happened was they had a representative there at DC or at Atlas or wherever they were, and they would be there, and then they would then there at the shop okay what need and then change what needed to be changed, or they had it right there. But the editorial staff made sure that they didn't have those conflicts, so they wouldn't have to rewrite and do things like that. So the changes that would have to come, I mean, they were willing to do it. They weren't trying to get by with anything. They were trying to get by. So they basically would make sure that they followed the rules and did what was asked of them. And if there were small changes, then that wouldn't screw up the times for them to basically get the books printed and keep on with a schedule, you see? So anyway, there you go. And who did the cover?
The cover is, according to this, they don't say who did the cover.
Okay, fair enough. But it's a different looking face on Superboy.
Oh wait, no, my mistake. Kurt Swan and Ray Burnley.
Jack Burnley or Ray Burnley?
It says Ray Burnley.
I think that was his brother. I think Ray Burnley was Jack Burnley's brother. But anyway, so there you go. Talk about an early Kurt Swan. How do you like that?
I do like Kurt Swan. I cannot believe how long he was there.
He really was.
Crazy.
Okay, now adventure number 218, Matt, please. And I think this is 1956.
218.
Yep.
Yeah. Adventure 218.
It's November number 218, November of.
It would be the same year. Aventure. Jeez, I'm not French in this. Okay, Adventure Comics 218, November 1955.
55. Okay. 50. Here we have November of 55. Look at the color palette on this cover, where they have green and kind of a pinky red to stand off on the yellow background with the basically the transitioning deep yellow to a lighter yellow to make the contrast down below with the purple and the blue. Isn't that amazing?
Yes, but is Jor-El wearing hot pants?
No,
Yep.
Jor-El is wearing shorts because he's Jor-El. You belong to us, Clark, here on Earth. No, we're his real parents, and he's going with us to another planet.
Good night, John.
Good evening, John. Thanks for coming. Adventure Comics featuring the two worlds of Superboy.
Oh, man.
Oh, Superboy.
Could you imagine being pulled like that, though, between two sets of parents? I know that is just a fake story because it's, like it's Jor-El.
It's not fake, it's real.
But
it's all real.
Supergirl has that problem all the time once her parents are brought out of the survival zone.
Supergirl isn't real.
Like,
Superman is real.
Exactly.
Okay.
You know, the whole like, Kal-El, we survived, you belong with us trope has been done so many times.
I think this has to be probably one of the first ones of that. This has to be one of the first ones of that.
Definitely one of the earliest ones. But not much later is the one with them flying off with
Are you real, Christina? I'm sorry, say again, Cliff.
Not much later, but maybe a few years later is the one with Joel and Laura flying off with Superboy, being like, "Come on, son, we're going home," and Mom and Pop can't are up front like, "Oh no," you know.
That'll learn them.
And it would happen again and again. And by the way, they pulled it with Superman again in 0 Hour. In 0 Hour, there's a freaking big old bubble, and it's like, we're Jor-El and Laura, and Krypton survived. You want to go home with us and meet your brother? And then, of course, a time wave strikes and blows up their transportation.
Teaser.
Yeah, because like
they taunt you, and then you go, "Oh, I want to know," and then they crush you. They crush you like a bug. They crush your dreams. A life lesson, Cliff.
Well, my
okay. Now, Matt, issue number 219. I only have a few more. Okay. 219.
Okay. 219. Adventure. I can't type. Save my life. Okay, here we go. The Gorilla with X-Ray Eyes. 10/25/1955.
55. Okay, we're still great.
It's the release date, so I think it's December 55.
Now you'll notice still that the code stamp has not gotten giant yet. We're still at the very incept of the code. These are extremely early code books.
It's still pretty big. It's still pretty big.
Not as big as 56, I assure you.
Bigger.
This is 219. By God, I have 220, which is January of 56. But it isn't. That's not, I see. All will be revealed.
Ooh.
Because this is what we do here. So anyway, and who did the cover, Matt?
This one is Kurt Swan and Stan K.
Okay, Stan K always was the inker. He was very, very good. Do you know, I'll just touch on this. DC Comics, the guys loved gorillas. Any excuse to have a gorilla somewhere. Every Kong gorilla, Gorillas just were big with DC to the point where the editor says no more gorillas, and they would sneak them in. Detective Chimp, they had Grodd. I mean, they would sneak the baseball team in Brave and Bold, where they have the whole gorilla baseball team. Gorillas, gorillas, gorillas. It's always, yeah, and they're always escaping. Smallville Zoo is a sieve, so everybody's escaping. So there's that. Here is issue number 220. This is January, but it would still be like December of 55 still.
Yeah.
But this is a great one because it is a crypto book.
I love crypto, and this is while they still drew him as the nice little mutt.
Yeah.
The greatest show on earth, featuring Superboy, the Boy of Steel, and Crypto, the Dog of Steel. Isn't that fun?
It is a lot of fun.
You don't really see these books very often. You just don't. Now, Mr. Matt, issue number 223 is April, which I think would be February in 1956. Tell me.
I'll get it for a second. Adventure which?
223.
223 would be on sale date February 26, 56.
February, so it's 2 months prior. Okay, that gives you an idea. Look at the size of the stamp now.
Yes, it is pretty big.
See? And here is where Superboy as Hercules Jr. It's time for me to switch not to Clark Kent, no, but to Hercules Jr. Plus the ABCs of archery.
Interesting.
That would be arrow, bow, and concentration.
Here is Adventure Comics number 250. Dang it. They have dark blue. 256. Yeah, 256. And this has the origin of Green Arrow, and it's a Kirby story.
Yes, Kirby. Didn't Kirby also do Challengers of the Unknown for DC?
Yes, early on. Yes. This is a big. This was always a big book. Hard to get this book. This was one that everybody was after. You're wanted dead or alive, Superboy. This'll learn you. Here is still 10 cents, so we're still probably 1961 on this, June of 61. This is Superboy number 89, where we get to meet Mono.
Yes! Wow, yes. I love the fact that Seinfeld stole the name Bob Cobb and used it on his show for the Maestro. It was so hilarious.
He was a traveling salesman, and he had a hat that turned up, right? 50s.
That's
It was like the 50s style.
Yeah.
And I when I read this thing, as a kid, I had this book, and I read this, and I cracked up. Bob Cobb, come on!
It's too funny.
They love alliteration.
They sure do. It's a great story, and so tragic, and that Daxam and then Led and all the other stuff and what he had to do and all that. This was always a really, really, thank you, Kate. This has always been such a tough book to get, and now is actually pretty tough. It's one that I have one of my friends who's.
By the way, the creator of the Cobb salad was Robert H. Cobb, known as Bob Cobb.
It makes sense, doesn't it?
And of course, there's the football player Robert Cobb, also
known as Bob Cobb.
We're still in, this is July, this is issue number 90, so we're still in 61. This is Lana Lang's Trap for Lois Lane.
Ooh.
And Pete Ross becomes a
Legionnaire.
He becomes an honorary Legionnaire here, right?
Well, actually, he becomes an honorary Legionnaire in the Ultra Boy story.
Right, it's the Ultra Boy story. So what? Here he becomes a full Legionnaire?
No. Here he does become the honorary Legionnaire. He gets invited in the Ultra Boy story. Here he cashes in the coin to go, and they make him the honorary Legionnaire.
Okay, for keeping, it's so horrifying, right?
Yeah.
It's for keeping Superboy's secret, and then of course the Legion probably knows the fate of Pete Ross and his son.
Yes.
This is, will you look? This is issue number 90. I think this might be from 1960.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a little later than that. Superboy 90.
Because it says 1960 on the machine. I'm thinking 60.
Well, let's take a look. Superboy 90. By the way, it's 61 May 18 was the sale date.
May, okay, fair enough. So she's still, the thing is showing 1960.
Probably when it was written or drawn.
Yeah.
But what was I going to say? Cliff, if you remember, the Legion was involved in that story because they tried to stop Superman from taking John Ross.
And what was the ultimate resolve? Pete Ross Kid would become Tommy Tomorrow?
No, what the ultimate resolution of that was in a story with the Phantom Stranger from DC Comics Presents.
Mm-hmm.
The Phantom Stranger is able to do something, and Superman is able to get him back and fly him back to Earth.
Really?
Yeah, so he is rescued. I think it's issue 25. I did a video on this. On this story.
I have one more book to show. I have many more with Adventure that I follow up and what have you. You guys have covered that. But I wanted to show you this Superboy with Ultra Boy.
Yes. Oh, the Renegade Traders. Yes. That is such a good one. I remember reading this as a kid and thinking I was so smart because I figured out why behind the story where that he'd accidentally gone to the parallel dimension because Smallville was spelled with one L.
Yeah.
I think I have one other one that I have the first Ultra Boy and I must have passed it. Just a sec.
That's Superboy 98.
Wow, DC Comics Presents 25 is Superman and Phantom Stranger.
Yes, that's the story.
Yes. Dang.
Cliff, I did a video on it. It's my video on it is named Bronze Age Superman Has Some Good Stories, and I cover all the John Kent stories from that era.
So
all the John Ross stories. I mean,
that was a convoluted adventure.
Yes, very, very disappointing ending compared to the coolness of the story.
Well, I mean, Pete Ross hated Superman for such a good chunk there. It was so awful.
But he forgives him when he rescues him. So,
of course, he's going to forgive him when he brings his son back. But come on. Painful. I mean, he even found a way to put himself in Superboy's body so he could attack Superman.
I know. That was hilarious. Like, that was a great story. That was DC. For those that don't know, the ones we're talking about are DC Comics Presents 13, 14, and 25. That's the Phantom Stranger one.
Well, I've misfiled it somewhere.
I love Cliff when he walks into the office and just goes, I've known for years and haven't told you. Now go, Superman. Superman doesn't even stop to question what's going on. He just goes.
Yeah, that's true. He just is like, it's like, listen,
I'll be right back.
No problem.
Like I've been it's like I have been your truest friend, and you go save my freaking son. And like,
and what's cool is, of course, John Ross knows his identity at this point because he had revealed it to John Ross when John Ross was sick.
Yeah,
which is how you find out about John Ross, like Pete having a kid in the first place. So that like as I said, I've done a video on that. For those that are interested in watching it, I will put a link in the description after the video is done. It was a fun one to put together because one of the Jonathan Ross stories, Mixelplick, shows up with him and tries to get him to play with him, and It's kind of creepy. and all this stuff. But Jonathan Ross
is Mixaplik being nice in this one?
Sort of. He's being, like, look, kid, I can give you all these powers. You can do all these things, And he ends up being managing to send Mixaplik back into, speaking his name backwards and stuff. Comics.
Right, but like still, it's like, Mixaplik. Well, I guess Mixaplik could just show up being any old thing, right?
Yeah, it's because Mixaplik was trying to. Mixaplik was trying to impress this group of kids for some reason, and it wasn't working. And Jonathan Ross was one of the kids, and sort of like started mocking him and egging him on, and how kids can be cruel and say things, It's an interesting book. It's an action in 472, I think. I think that's where it is. It's a backup story in the book. It's not the main story. It's not on the cover, other than a little blurb saying Mixaplik in the but not 472. I'm getting that confused with something else. Anyways, it's in this video I did, so I'll put the link up. Hey, Biggie, welcome to the show.
Biggie.
Hi, Big.
I don't know if we're ever going to have a Mixaplik Great Kazoo and Orko crossover. It would be interesting.
It would be rocking. Orko is crazy. I mean, Orko goes around the bend.
He really does.
Don't forget Batmite. We got to get Batmite in there, too.
Batmite, too. Have you got anything else there, Steve?
No, that was the last one I had.
Okay, well,
I have more, but I mean, it's we're running along. I didn't know how long.
Yeah, well, as I said, I don't have to rush off. I'm going to show my books real quick, and then we'll call it a night.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so hi everybody. Today I've chosen to show the first 10 books from the 1980 series, The New Adventures of Superboy. For those that don't know this, Superboy series morphed into the Legion of Superheroes with issue 259. Superboy 258 was the last issue. That also was cover dated December 1979. Legion 259, the first issue, was cover dated January 1980, which is the same cover date as this, issue 1 of the New Adventures of Superboy, which replaced the old Superboy series because they found that there was still a demand for Superboy stories. Now, I love the fact that in the vast majority of these books, Kurt Schaffenberger is the artist. In this case, Dick Giordano did inks on the cover. But I just love these covers. I love these stories. As I said earlier about the whole 15, 20 years in the past, the 60s I'm a little more familiar with because I'd seen more films and stuff from that era. So I found it very cool and a little bit more relatable. Here's issue 2, where Lana's dad gets taken over, possessed by a demon. As you know, always happens. Then the next 2 books are very interesting. Issue 3 is the first appearance of a person by the name of Astralad, who is the guy throwing him, who began. Superboy had a dream, and then when he woke up, discovered it was real. Astralad only made 2 appearances, issue 3 and issue 4.
Where they realized they could be friends.
That's right. Issue 5, I've shown before in a video. This is a story about aliens that Superboy saves, and through the efforts of Jonathan Kent, and the aliens then give John Kent a wish, which he ends up using. His wish is to see his boy all grown up, which becomes a story in Action Comics 508 and 509.
Yes, it does. Yes.
Next up, here's one of the first times Superboy ran away from home.
About time.
Number 7 is interesting. For those who follow my channel, you know that I like the TRS kids. Well, in this issue is a reprint of the TRS story featuring Master Disaster. Or the Major Disaster. It's right here. It says extra 28-page complete Superman story. Well, it's the TRS kids fighting major disaster.
Who wins?
The TSR kids, because the TRS kids, because they got like 2 more stories and a series.
Yeah, they really did. What was
Yeah,
the TRS?
I bought them all. I bought them all and did a video. It's a lot of fun. New Adventures of Superboy 8. Well, this is an issue where they have to fake Clark's death for a while in order to protect his identity. Number 9 here was the first issue where they brought in 8 extra pages, which meant that the price went up 50 cents.
And the Phantom Zone villains.
But it's the Phantom Zone villains. This is the first time that, and this is an enigma, considering that Superman meets Farora Huel for the first time in Action Comics 472. Seeing her in a Superboy book, meaning she was there 20 years before when Superman didn't recognize, I don't think the writers saw that through. And the last one I'm going to show is another one of those Superboy impersonator ones. This is New Adventures of Superboy number 10. What I liked most about this book is there's a backup story of Crypto. So those are what I have to show today. I just thought I'd bring those along because I liked that series a lot when I was a kid. It came out when I was 9 years old, and I read almost it. Well, I've read every one now.
I love that. I love when Crypto would heat vision his fur to make the brown patch so he could pose as another dog. I also enjoyed that Crypto had human level intelligence, you know?
I know, and it was cool. See, he actually thought like a normal person, not this me am hungry, me am. And which you would think a dog level intelligence would be.
He has dog level intelligence. He's just a sweet little boy with too many superpowers. Like we haven't all had a spoiled dog in our life. And look at the way Kara is. So obviously there's some issues there. You know, if it was Clark's dog all along, he would have been much more well trained.
Well, thank you everybody for joining us tonight. I really want to thank my guests Stephen and Cliff for taking the time out to spend time with us today discussing Superboy books. If you are catching this on the replay, I'd like to see you comment about what your favorite book was from this episode. I would like to see how interesting, what interests you, which ones you think are best.
You know what's funny?
Most of all, I want to say thank you to Mike Dennis, who is a new member of the club. We really appreciate that, Mike.
Welcome aboard.
Hopefully, I have done a few members only videos that you'll now have access to. So hopefully you'll enjoy those. In the meantime, thank you everybody for joining me tonight. I really, really appreciate it. My name's Matt. I like comics. I love Superman, and I hope you do too. Bye, everybody.